Welcome back to another episode of From the Ground Up with Esther. In this podcast, we talk about growth, faith, resilience, and joy. And I'm very happy because I have my friend Phillip Antunes with me. So, Philip, what is your favorite ice cream?
Mint chocolate chips. Love mint chocolate chip. I can eat it by the gallon every day. It's one of my favorite ice creams because my mom, when she was pregnant with me, all she had was mint chocolate chip. So I guess she's passed on to me.
Okay.
But I can eat it every day.
So you stay that since
Since a little
since a little fetus. Yeah. Philip, it's my brother in Christ and also a wonderful entrepreneur that inspires me. And I have been very inspired by watching his journey since I met him. And he's always been very generous and gracious with the people at church and bringing us ice cream. He owns ice cream shops right here in the Westchester area. So Philip, why don't you talk to us and tell us what you do and how you got inspired to do all of this?
Right now, I have ice cream stores. I have 4 stores that I run with my sister, and we are actually opening up our 5th store now in Somers, New York. And we have a store in Mount Kisco, Irma, Chappaqua, Larchmont, and then it'll be Somers. So, we're involved in the frozen yogurt industry, ice cream, anything that you can think of frozen desserts we have. Whether that's milkshakes, smoothies, acai bowls, sundaes. I also have crepes, coffee. So we like to call ourselves a one-stop sweet shop. Come in, you're having a sweet tooth, you can get something for yourself.
He's a very sweet person. He is. Yeah. So how do you get started in this? How do you get inspired?
Well, since at the very beginning at a young age, I never wanted to work for anybody. I always wanted to work for myself. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never wanted anyone to tell me what to do. I wanted to have schedule on my own terms. I wanted to have my hours on my own terms. And I just hung around people that were more successful than me. I hung around people that had what I know, right? With similar goals, similar aspirations that they had, I wanted. And so I just surrounded myself with those types of people by being around that. Because I got to be able to see their routines, see their daily habits. And I took on that. And once you're around more successful people, you just begin to learn things. Your mind gets to dream a little bigger. You think bigger. So by being around those people, I saw endless possibilities to do what I wanted to do, whether that be any business. I used to have a car detailing business, was involved in real estate, multi-level marketing. I tried a whole bunch of different things until the one thing that stuck was ice cream business. Now that's what I do pretty much full time.
Okay. So can you tell us how old are you?
Yes. It takes me a second sometimes to think about it. But I'm 31. So definitely getting a little up there. My 20s went by very quickly. I got to say, from 20 to 30, those are my really hard working years. I was working extremely hard during those years. I tell a lot of kids my age, not kids my age, but age. I never really went to parties. Never partied at all, really. And all my friends were a lot older than me. I just hung around people that were more successful. And that's what I did. I just put my head down and worked. I had goals that I wanted to achieve by 30, by 25, by 27. Every year I had a goal. That was my driving factors, my goals.
Okay. So how old were you when you first started your first business? I did ask ChatGPT about you, and he said something about selling candy. Is that true?
That is true. Yeah.
So yes, I was like, tell me something about Philip.
Actually, I actually forgot about that. When I was in middle school, I would have my mom go to Costco and buy 30 boxes of candy. I had like 30 pieces of candy in them: Snickers, Skittles, Starburst. And I would see, my cost, and I would see the school vending machine would cost. So the school vending machine would sell those for, dollars. I would go and sell for $1.75, cost me 50 cents. So I would, underhand the school system. I learned it. And that's my first business. I was like, okay, well, I can get it cheaper. That means I can sell it cheaper. So go to me. And so in my locker, I had my school supplies, and then I had another locker next to me that was empty for the first couple of, months of school year. So I went out and I bought a lock and I just locked it with my combination. And in that locker, I had boxes of candy. So the kids would all come to me. Teachers would come to me and they'd tell me, "You my Snickers today?" Yeah. They would, give me the money. So was able to, learn that at a young age. Well, okay, it's pretty easy to make money. All you gotta do is think outside the box. Think a little clearly, think bigger. And so eventually got caught by the superintendent The superintendent called me down to his office and said, "Hey, Philip, you can't be selling candy." And I said to him, like, what rule is there? Like, what says I can't sell it?
Mm.
And he said, "Well, we have vending machines that people pay us rent to put it in school." I said, "Well, there's only one way you're going to stop it. So you got to buy me out." And so I said, "Listen, what offer can you make to me to buy me out?" And he was very, very impressed with that at my age. And he said, because of that, and he was the first person that's spoken to the entrepreneurship spirit to me. Is here's a check for $500, and you need a check for $500. Here's your buyout.
Oh
So
my
that's how
goodness.
I was able to start. Now then, from there, I'm like, oh, this is pretty simple. And so then I
Uh-huh.
started on a bigger scale, whether that be car detailing, real estate, getting
Mm.
involved in buying my first property when I was 19. Doing all these things, was able to say, okay, does that deal make sense? Can I make money that way? Can I make money this way? And of course, there's failures all along the way.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, you gotta try new things.
Mhm. That's so awesome. So how old were you when this happened?
I had to be 14, 15. I was selling candy in my school. And my mom would literally sell boxes. And then I would go to neighbors and say, "Hey, you want to buy candy from me?" I go to neighbor's take and I wash your car. So I would do all these things. And then as I was starting to wash cars, I just created a car detailing company. And I started literally from nothing. I ordered supplies on Amazon, soap, brush, and that's it, and a vacuum cleaner. And I would just start doing people's cars.
Mhm.
And ended up getting pretty big doing that. And then that's when BMW contacted me out of nowhere. Maybe I did somebody's car that I worked for them and said, "Hey, you gotta have this kid, do all of our fleets." So basically BMW would go to like Monticello racetrack and all these, areas where they were race BMWs, and they said they needed an on-site detailer. So they hired us, and that kind of launched our detailing business. And then I ended up selling that. And then I took the profits from that and bought, my house at 19, the three-family home. And that's where I
Mhm.
learned about home ownership and real estate.
Mhm.
And so, I didn't go out and buy a fancy car. I didn't go out and buy, fancy shoes. I went out and I reinvested in assets, whether that be real estate. And I feel like a lot of the younger generation, they make their first dollar, they go out and spend money on things that
Mhm.
they don't need to be spending
Damn.
money on. Right? And you learn that as you get older. And of course, I like nice things, but again, it's all about where your vision is, what your goal is. If my goal is, hey, by 30, I want this, there's certain sacrifices and certain investments you have to do in order to get there.
That's great. Yeah, I loved that story when I read it. I mean, it didn't give me all the
Yeah,
details,
yeah,
but it
sure.
said
I forget
he was
about
selling
that.
candy, and I was like, "Oh, interesting. I
Yeah, yeah,
never
I
knew
forget
about
about that
this."
sometimes.
Yeah, so you
That's why I
all
don't remember.
you always had this entrepreneurial spirit in you. Yeah. So do you see that in your family growing up?
Yeah, 100%. My mom owned her own real estate. My dad didn't go to college. My mom, became a very successful mortgage banker. Started her own firm, and I saw her, and I saw her success, and I also saw her failures, and my dad's failures. I saw, in the economy what happened to our family, and I learned from that too.
Mhm.
So I learned the ups and downs from entrepreneurship from my parents, and
Mhm.
so I learned that it's like this. It's a roller coaster.
Mhm.
You just got to keep the bar down and hang on for the entire ride. So I was able to learn from that. Back in the when the economy crashed, we lost our home. So we went from a house that my dad built for us. It was a custom, it was my mom's dream home, and we lost it all. And we moved into 1,000 square foot little home with me, my two sisters, and my parents, and a dog. And I learned,
Mhm.
okay, this is the highs of entrepreneurship, but these are also the lows in entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
And I wanted to, make it a goal in my life. Hey, I never want to go through that. I never want to
Mhm.
go through that low where we lose everything. And so some of the decisions at my age and at earlier age I made always had that mindset where
Mhm.
I know where entrepreneurship can lead and I know where it can also go. So
Mhm.
was able to learn from my parents that, and
Oh,
also a lot of other entrepreneurs that I know.
yeah, yeah. Wow. I think I heard that story about, I
Mhm.
think your mom gave a testimony at
Yeah,
church about that.
yeah.
Wow, that's great. So I don't know if I asked you this before, but what is your morning routine?
Yes. So my morning routine is I wake up, give my wife a kiss. Sometimes we do what's called cuddle muffins. We cuddle a little bit. And then we, I get up, brush my teeth, have my coffee, go downstairs to my office, check on my day-to-day tasks, what I have to do, who I have to call, the orders, the inventory, the scheduling I have to do, the payroll. And then I go to the gym, and then I go to whatever store needs me. And
Mhm.
basically throughout the day, I put out fires. Like today, for instance, we had one freezer in my large home location break, and we lost about like
Mm.
$600 product, ice cream,
Mm.
so we have to get that fixed. It's just dealing with day-to-day things. We're building a new store, in Summers, and for tomorrow morning, I'm going there to meet with our contractor to design it and placement and what it's going to cost. I think sometimes people look at, wow, must be nice having all these stores. It must be
Mhm.
nice on your own business, but people don't see the behind the scenes.
Mm.
People don't see, behind the scenes of entrepreneurship. People don't see, what you went through to set up a
Mhm.
start a podcast. People don't
Mhm.
see what I went through to, get where I got. They only see the end product.
Mhm.
And so I think that's what creates, I guess, a lack of vision for some of the younger generation of entrepreneurships that are wanting to own their own businesses. He got there. I can do it pretty quick.
Mm.
Oh, but it's not
No,
that.
it takes time.
It took me 10 years, to get where I'm at. And also took me another 10 years to learn from other people.
Mhm.
So, essentially, if you look at it, it took me almost 20 years to get where I'm at, just learning, failing, and doing different things.
Yeah, so that is a good point that you're making because a lot of people only see the end results, right? And they want to start something and they think it's going to give results really fast, but they don't go through the failures. So, how have you handled failure in your journey? And can you take us to one time that
Mhm.
affected you the most? That was,
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, Failure is inevitable. It's always going to happen. It's how you handle the failure. So when the first big, not necessarily failure, but the first time is when COVID hit. I had a store in New York City, right on Fifth Avenue in the Plaza Hotel, and basically COVID crushed that store specifically so bad that we lost everything. And basically, I had to close down the store, and I owed money in the store. I had still debt to pay. I had rent to pay, but COVID shut us out. My other stores were okay, but the city store was the most expensive store, as you can imagine,
yeah.
being in New York City, and especially with all the rules and regulations that was happening in the city, that it was completely shut down.
Hmm.
So we had no customers in the plaza. That was it. We had to just be there with one person. I would go down every day, maybe have a customer, and that was it. So that store ended up failing. But what happened from that store is we were able to eventually get a restaurant revitalization fund from the government, and we were able to take that store and move it to our Chappaqua store.
Hmm.
So if you go into our Freddy's in Chappaqua, all of our old store, all of our old equipment from the city is now in that store. So we didn't actually fail. We actually ended up doing very well because of the assistance from the government, because of just how things worked out. But that was a big issues for me, just because I had 6 months of straight panic and like sleepless
Mm.
nights. Like, oh, how am I going to do this? Like, I was taking money from the other stores to try to keep that store alive. And so, from that failure, I learned to like, listen, take deep breath, relax. Your world's not ending. Things will always work out. See, when I feel like when you're in the mode when you're working, things will always work itself out. It's when you stop and you become
Mm.
stagnant, that's when the failures crush you. So you have to always move. Always have to be doing something. You always have to be moving forward. You always have to be ahead of the curve. Just because if you're not, you're stagnant, and
Mhm.
that's it. So if I only had, give you an example, if I only had that one source as my source of income, I would have lost everything.
Mhm.
But because I was always doing different things, was able to make it through it. But yeah, it was scary, sleepless nights,
Yeah.
but we were able to make it out of that. Thank God.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yes, I was. Yeah, I think that was one of the first ones I heard of you at
Mm.
church too. I think you think you spoke about
Yeah,
it,
yeah, probably, yeah.
right? So you talked about your dad. He didn't go to
Mhm.
college, so and you were always had this entrepreneurial spirit
Yeah.
in you since you were younger. How did your parents inspire you, and how did they encourage you to go for your dreams?
Yeah. My mom and dad are my biggest supporters, biggest believers. They were the ones that gave me my first loan in business. I needed money to buy a store, and they were able to help me, and I paid them back. Anything that I wanted to do, my parents always supported me and my sisters. And that is, if I did want to go to college, they supported me 100%.
Mhm.
If I wanted to open up a business, they'd support me 100%. And they showed me more by example with their leadership and how they led our family, and also and how they led their business, and also how they talk to people and how involved they were in church. All those things you notice as a child, right? How your
Mhm.
parents handle adversity, how your parents handled the low times in life. And so I was able to watch them and how they handle it, and they handle it with class, my parents.
Mhm.
And not everyone has the opportunity to have parents that
Mhm.
were able to bless them. During when the economy crashed, my parents didn't have money for groceries. We had our aunts and uncles bring groceries to our house, and I just watched how my parents went from that rut and they climbed out of it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, if my parents can do that. That's inspiring. That means I can do it too. And so
Mm-hmm.
anything my biggest supporter is my mom. Actually does all my accounting for my stores.
Okay.
She does all of our bookkeeping. My dad, something breaks in the store, he's there the next day fixing the espresso. We like to call it a family business. But yeah, every grand opening, they're always there. If I ever need something to store, they're always there. On that, I attribute a lot to my success, my parents' support.
That's so sweet and so important because a lot of people have that support, but a lot of people don't have that support, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of parents too, if their child says they don't want to go to college, sometimes they're not agreeing with that, or
Yeah.
others are. So it is a blessing that you did have that.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, I look at college as if you know what you want to do, meaning you want to go in the medical field, you got to go to college. Well, you're going law enforcement, go to school. If you're a lawyer, you got to go to school. But my whole thing in this generation is, I've seen people waste, hundreds of thousands of dollars on school and then graduate that school and not have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had, that situation. I have some kids working for me that are in school debt now working for me. Now, I find that, go to school if you know what you want to do. But if you don't know, the entrepreneurship route is there. It's there for
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Don't just go to school because everybody's going to school. There's a reason why the 1% is the 1%, because
Mm-hmm.
the 99% go left and the 1% goes right.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be that 1%. And I think that's what successful people from the unsuccessful people.
Mm-hmm.
There's followers and then there's leaders and
Mm-hmm.
go-getters. And so, for example, my sister, she used to be, oh, I go to school. I don't have a job. I don't know what to do. I said, Sarah, why would you go to school not knowing what you want to do? That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make sense. Degrees can only get you so
So
far.
far.
But instead, let's start a side business. And she did. And she became successful. And now she owns 2 stores with me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my biggest thing. And I'm very straightforward with that. People may have different beliefs than me. People may have thoughts that are different from me about school,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just the one that I view it.
Yeah.
And it's the one way I've also experienced it.
Yeah, and it worked out for you.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You have what you want and you're still dreaming for more, I'm pretty
Yes.
sure. Yeah, so that's important. How has faith helped you along the way?
That's a good question. It's been the most important thing for me and for my businesses, because without God, like, I wouldn't have what I have. He's blessed me tremendously. I think, with the faith I have and trusting the Lord, is decisions I make are prayerfully considered. How I act, I'm a Christian man. I have to act like a Christian man. So I think being a man of faith differentiates me throughout the day, how I see things, how I think of things, how I make my decisions, how I treat people. And that's one thing, I want to do with my staff is, I can't necessarily go in there and say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus to staff, but I can show them through encouragement and examples. I've had, staff call me crying and, like, hey, listen, there's something better. There's good things around the corner. So planting seeds
Mm-hmm.
in my staff and in the younger generation that I have, that looks up to us and that, calls me for questions or advice. It really helps out. But also, especially in the deep, also dark areas of the business where, I've suffered of loss or I have situations, I'm able to know that God's in control. He's got it all covered, and he's never let one of our stores fail. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I think when a lot of opportunities come up to me as far as like, oh, Philip, we have an opportunity for you here, we have an opportunity for you there, and I know that the Lord will open up that door. It's my duty to walk through the door, seek it out, but also prayerfully consider everything that the Lord, gives us.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a major role play in my life and
Mm-hmm.
my businesses.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah,
all my
that's
successes to do.
yes. Yes. The Bible does say that he wants us to be prosperous, right? And he gives us
Absolutely.
wisdom and talks about different ways of how to gain and save and
Yes.
do all of that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't all of these details about you,
Yeah.
how you started and your candy story,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Absolutely.
So what do you value the most in your employees? Because you have gone since you were younger, you started to work hard and you're a young employer too. So what do you value most in your employees?
Really good question, actually. I say honesty and integrity is what's really important. Also, work ethic. Someone that comes into our stores and shows that they're honest, they're hardworking. That's what I value the most. I find that sometimes these younger kids don't have work ethic. They come in and are lazy, and that's a struggle in our business.
Mhm.
When I find like I guess my golden egg, I find someone that can work. I don't have to tell them what to do. They're on their own. They're on their own soaring. Then I found my golden egg. That's what I want, and I wish I had that for all my stores, but unfortunately we don't. So we have to adapt. We have to train. Sometimes we have to train like someone how to hold a broom, how to mop because they've never held a broom. So we have to teach them how to what a dime looks like, what a nickel looks like, because they don't know. It's just a new generation. So I think all that's taught me a lot of patience with staffing. So when I meet someone that has integrity, that doesn't, steal, that doesn't do things the fast way, the easy way, I value that a lot, and I reward for that. Whether that's giving them a raise or a different position, I reward for hard work.
That's good. Yeah, I like that because I always see Phillips when you celebrate or go with your employees somewhere. I think you always share on Instagram.
Yes, I do. I do. That's another thing is I see a lot of businesses, have employees and, not necessarily they don't treat them well, but what I always say is I want to create a community. I want to create a family within our staff. And so, in the summer we have summer parties. I, hire a pizza truck to come, music, desserts, and same thing we do for Christmas. Throughout Christmas, we do a Christmas party for our entire staff. And then throughout the year, periodically, I'll take some of the older stuff out for dinner. You have to reward your staff. You have to give back to them because they notice that. Even though the younger kid, they notice like, well, wow, Philip's doing this for us, and in return, I actually want you to work a little harder. But it's not just for that; it's just because we want to create community and friendships. Because if they can work outside the store well, they can also work inside the store well. If that makes sense.
No, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, I agree with that. And we talked about that your parents inspire you. Has there been anyone else, someone that you have looked up?
Yeah, absolutely. My pastor, Pastor Glenn from Harvest Time Church, known him since I was a little kid. He's always inspired me to do the right thing, to help out in the ministry, to help out in church. We young adults, youth, was very involved growing up in church. He's just inspired me by his work ethic. Not many people see like him working behind the scenes. Yes, he's a pastor, he's a great preacher, but he also runs a business. So he's the CEO of Harvest Time Church, right? So I seen him give me a lot of good ideas and good examples of what he's been through in business because he has payroll, he has expenses, he has staffing, he has a board. So not a lot of people look at well, he is a business owner, he's helping run the back scenes of the church, and that takes a lot. And so I learned a lot from him throughout that business and how he handles kind of day to day operations and how he hires hiring and how he hires I mean how he handles hiring and how he handles firing and finding new talent. So definitely has been a big inspiration for me because he does everything, faithfully. He does everything in a godly perspective. So I was able to learn a lot from that.
Yeah, that's good. I do. Yeah, when I think of Pastor Glenn, he's an inspirational person too,
Yeah.
and it's a big business.
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, people
The
don't realize
church,
it.
people
Yeah,
don't realize. Yeah, it's a lot
absolutely.
on his shoulders. Yeah. I had another question for you. What advice will you give to someone that's maybe not as young as you, like when you started your businesses, right? But someone that is just starting
Yeah,
in entrepreneurship?
I'd say the biggest piece of advice I can give is whatever field you're in, whether that's podcasts, whether that's, opening up music studio or whatever, it's coffee shop, find the most successful person in that field and ask to be around them, ask to volunteer, let them for free. If you want to open up a coffee shop, I go to the best coffee shop, find the best coffee shop in New York State, find out whoever the owner is and say, hey, I just want to be around you. I want to work for free. And the value that you get by learning how he operates his business is better than any college, any learning center will ever teach you is by being around successful people. So that's my biggest advice I can give is whatever your field you want to go in, just go to that person and be around them, just ask if you can do anything for them. Hey, I'll clean your store for free. I'll work for free. I'll learn how to make cappuccinos and lattes for free. If I can be around how you've built this empire. Same thing with podcasts, right? Like, try to be around the person who has the best podcast. Hey, can I help behind the scenes just to see how they run because you learn so much and then you can apply that to your business.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
great.
a
I
good
keep
idea.
hearing that. And another one is, I know you talked about failures and all of it, right? But I know there is also criticism that might come. Or how do you handle that?
I guess as you get older, you get a little bit more of a thick skin. Before, I mean, still to this day, there's people that criticize me. Oh, I think you should do this. Or I think you should do this differently. I think you shouldn't hire this person. But at the end of the day, like the only advice that I'm going to listen to is myself or people that are more experienced than me. So it's like me getting advice from someone who knows nothing about the ice cream industry to trying to give me advice on how to run my business. I just learned to not even like, that doesn't phase me anymore, but it did. Yeah. I mean, people's like, well, you're not doing this right. Well, I've done pretty well so far. And so I think just by going through that, I've added more of a thick skin now. But that doesn't say where, people will say things to me that will hurt me sometimes, but how long can you let it like, if you hang on to it too long, then it begins to kind of go into your, daily work day. And you don't want that because you want to have a clear head. Which is one of the reasons why I always try to exercise in the morning because I get a clear head after exercise. I'm in a good mood after exercise. So I guess, just by the experience, just learning how to roll it off your shoulders, if they don't, if they don't have what you want, why are you listening? That's how I look at it. That's how I think of it. But now if someone who's more successful, who has the things I want, like, I'm going to listen. You have 50 carvels. I'm going to listen to what you have to say. You know what I mean? So different, if someone gives me criticism that way, I'm listening. I'm all ears.
Yeah, that's the best way of handling.
For me.
I think it's true because sometimes I think I agree. We don't want to listen to people that are not doing.
Yeah. It's like someone telling me, Esther, you should do this with your podcast. Esther, you've done podcasts. Like you're not listening to someone like, I think you should change that microphone. That's why I would never tell you, your tech stuff. I have no idea about it. You should listen to me. But
I'm learning and I'm asking people that know more than me too. I ask people that are already doing it. What do you use? What should I use?
Right. Yeah. Because they've done it.
They've done it. Absolutely. I have no idea. When I started this, I had no idea. Now I'm learning as I go. Yeah. I keep learning and just.
Yeah. Look, you got a high tech camera. You got high tech stuff here. It's awesome.
Yeah. So, this podcast is called From the Ground Up, right? Because I'm learning myself and I want to grow and I want to invite people to grow alongside me too. So what does it mean for you? You already told us your story, but what does it mean for you to build from the ground up?
It means everything to me because, sometimes I take a look back, not in a selfish way, but in a proud way. Like, wow, everything I've done was able to get me to where I am today. I just look back and I come out. Sometimes I'm in disbelief, like where I started to where I am now. Like, I mean, you're talking about a kid who was in school who had I had a learning disability. I had to go through after school programs to, get my brain fixed just because I had a severe learning disability. I couldn't sit still. I had ADHD. And so I had teachers say, how retarded I was, and how I was never going to make it. And I guess because I built it, nobody built it for me. I put the hours in, I had my work ethic. I went through ups and downs. I had my failures. I went through ups and downs of every entrepreneurship, that every entrepreneur that goes through. It just kind of I look back and I'm like, wow, like I did it. And I still have more to do. And I think that's, um, when people achieve a certain level of success, I think it's because they've hung on to the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. Because sometimes when you're starting a business, you get your first failure, quit, or something went wrong. Well, I'm not going to do something, start a different business. But you got to stay on the path. You have to stay on the path because if not, that's what people veer off, and that's what separates the 1% from the 99%. You got to stay on. Because life's going to throw you ups and downs, right? Every day. Yeah. You got to hang on. And I say, that's why we're able to get to where we're at today. And so, but I'm not done yet.
No.
We're just getting started.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Can you, since you mentioned the learning disability part, can you go a little more in?
Yeah, absolutely. I was, I said I was terrible in school. I was terrible in school. I couldn't sit still. I had what's called wall-eye. So basically what that means, it's a term where when I was reading a book, it was like sticking needles in my eyes. So I couldn't, I would read an entire page and I would forget what I would. And so, they expect me in school, like, oh, pass this test. I can't even understand what they're saying. And I think also it's also an ability because I was always not thinking this. So I always knew that I didn't have goals. Why was this here? I never wanted to try. I wasn't there. I was thinking about what I wanted, how I wanted to live my life. And so the disability was bad, so I had to go to an after school program for 4 or 5 years. It's called the Empowered Learning Center. It's in Stamford, Connecticut. Actually, one of my mentors to this day, his name is Peter Riddle. He founded it. And, he definitely helped me out with my learning disability. He definitely important to me what being a business owner and entrepreneurship was, because he owned his own business and he started the Empowered Learning Center from the ground up to help,
It's called From the
students
Ground Up
with me.
too?
What's that?
Is it called From the Ground Up?
No, it's not from the ground. It's
Oh.
called Empowered Learning. Yeah, that would be cool though. But he helps people that not only just younger kids, but also he works with lawyers and doctors who have disabilities. Whether that be learning how to like pay attention and keep focus. So I was able to definitely get a little better from that. And I didn't want to go up, but my mom, again, my biggest supporter, she forced me. She said, "Hey, this is going to be good for you." And then I actually ended up working there for the first 2 years.
Wow.
And that's where I began really learning.
How old were you?
I was probably like 14 there. It was like my first job, 14, 15, I'd say. Yeah. 14,
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so it all works out.
A lot of the successful stories are from people that were told they had a learning disability.
Is that right?
The ones I guess that I listened to,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, no, it just, I guess, I don't know. I always felt different. Not in a cocky way, not in a prideful way, but I just always felt like, I had bigger things I wanted to achieve in life. But that's why maybe I just couldn't focus. And I still to this day, I get like very hyperactive. I guess that's a good thing too.
It's a good thing.
Just, on my toes.
Yeah. That's so nice. Well, I'm so proud of you that you overcame
Appreciate
all of that. So can you tell us how many stores you have? Where are they located?
Yeah. So we have 4 stores now: Larchmont, Chappaqua, Mount Kisco, Armonk, and then we'll open up Somers, which will be open in spring of 2026. And then we have a couple of things we're working on right now, opening up some more stores in the Westchester area. And then our whole goal is eventually to franchise it and open up a whole bunch of stores. And maybe one day have 500 stores. So that's what the goal is. First, we're starting with, getting to 10, and then maybe 15, then 20, and then see what happens after that. So that's where we're at right now. We like being in the walking towns, a little more upscale neighborhoods. That's where we like to be.
What's your business called?
So we have 2 brands. One is called Franny's Beauty Shop. And then we have another brand called Longford's Ice Cream, which we won Best of Westchester for the past 6-7 years now. Literally the best ice cream you ever tasted. So those are our stores at Armonk and Larchmont. And then in our Franny's location, we have frozen yogurt, frozen yogurt, and you can also find out Longford's Ice Cream in our Franny location as well.
Yeah, they're good.
I've
tried them. Everybody should go try it.
I have some for you actually when you leave today.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yummy. I did try the Cookie Monster one.
I have Cookie Monster.
Yeah, okay.
They're good, right?
They're good. They're good. They're good.
It's just vanilla ice cream, Thai blue chocolate.
Oh, it is the chocolate chip. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've had it. I'm like, I don't think I've had it. Yeah, I had it. So Phil, you're also married to another entrepreneur.
Yes.
Right? So can you tell us, because it must not be easy to do all of this job. You're probably working a lot.
3 years ago, and then we started dating. We got engaged within 8 months. And during the dating, season and during engagement season, I just knew she was the right one. She's a very big entrepreneurial heart, extremely hard work ethic. She always encourages me when I'm, in my fields, and I encourage her when she's in her fields. So we work very well off each other. We both have a lot of anxiety, so sometimes we both crash out, but it's okay. But just to see, her work ethic inspires me to work harder. She started a wedding content creation business, which you maybe hear from eventually, but she drives 4 or 5 hours round trips sometimes just for an event, and then it has her job on top of that. So she's always looking at different ways of making money, other opportunities, whether that's, flipping something online or looking at the next big thing. She's very heavily focused on that, and that just encourages me. And I think we both have the same vision. We both have the same financial goals. We both have the same vision of where we want to be in the next 5 years, 10 years. And I think that has a lot to do with our success is, you want to find somebody who's your equal. My pastor always says it. Find someone who's your equal. Don't find someone that's lesser or more, just your equal. The person that just equals you out, that has the same heart as you and the same vision as you, whether that's in ministry, business, anything. And so I definitely attribute a lot of my success to her. because she knows how to keep me calm when things are going bad as well.
Mm.
So I need, yes, you need that someone, like when things are going, like something's happening, bad happening, or you need someone just to rub your back and say, hey, it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's why we're able to work really well together.
Wow, that sounds very good advice because it's important to have somebody that can support you and you help each other out in your dreams and grow.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So
100%.
you mentioned success. How would you describe success in this stage of your life? And maybe give an advice to people of they might think of success in a different way. But can you tell us your
Yeah. Success for me, is doing whatever you want when you want. Meaning, if my wife and I want to go on a vacation for like 2, 3 days, we can because we have an amazing staff at our stores. She has her business on the side that she can work her hours around. So I think being able to also not only do what you want when you want, is also to, I guess, kind of give aspirations to younger generation to be like, oh, you can have the success if you do X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
To kind of be like, hey, you can follow in our footsteps. And that's what I think that's what success means to me the most. And also being able to bless other people, whether
Mhm.
that's giving advice, financially. I'm at the point where, like, oh, like, if I want to take my parents out to dinner, we can. The biggest things for my parents have done so much for me growing up. Like, I'm taking my parents to Florida in October. And that was like something I never thought I could do. I
Mhm.
get to actually get it, give them a vacation for once. So success for me is blessing other people as well,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest thing.
That fills our hearts. Yeah.
Absolutely. So eventually when you get to level, you want to just
Mhm.
bless the people that are closest to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to wrap us off,
Yeah.
what are 3 tips that you will give someone that's starting or that was feeling discouraged
Yeah.
that work for you?
Well, tip number one, like I probably said a million times in the podcast, is hang around someone who's more successful than you, whatever that field is. Number two is find a mentor, someone that can just help you out, encourage you, a good friend to talk to about your visions, your goals. And you want to make sure you talk about your visions, you talk about your goals. Don't
Mhm.
keep it in just inside. When you start talking it and when you start speaking it, no matter how crazy it sounds, but eventually you want to just have that progression of speaking it every single day because words have power. And when you speak that over yourself, that's one of the best things. And you pray into it. And then number three would be is pray you never quit. Just pray you
Mm.
never quit and give it to God. Anything in life, it's easy to quit. When something is bad, it's very easy to quit. As long as you have your vision, you have what's called your why, like why
Mhm.
you're doing what you're doing, whether that's why I'm doing the business, why you're doing your podcast. My whole goal, my whole vision for doing what I do one day is to retire my mom and dad. That's my
Mm.
why. See, you'll never give up on your mom and dad. You'll never give
Mhm.
up on whatever your why is. You'll give up on a fancy home. You'll give
Mhm.
up on a Ferrari, but you'll never give up on your reason why doing whatever it is you're doing, your
Mhm.
business. And mine is retire my mom and dad.
Yeah.
And eventually I want to get to the point where I can do that. So I'd say, those are 3 tips is number one, find someone that was more successful than you. Number two is find a mentor that you can speak to your business about. And number three is pray you never quit and give it to God.
Those are good ones.
Thank you.
Yeah. I actually want to ask you one more before
Yeah.
we go. Was there a moment you wanted to quit?
For me, no. I'll be honest. No, because my why, there were times where things got really hard and I never once said, "Oh, stop the stores. I want to stop building." For me, there wasn't, and that maybe not a typical answer. Yeah, I want to
What?
quit. But for me, it wasn't just because my reason why doing things
We're
was I
stronger.
just I was strong. Yeah, and I knew the Lord gave me good things. I knew the Lord gave me good stores. I knew the Lord gave me good opportunities. And by quitting, I feel like that would be disheartening to Him, because He opened up doors of opportunity for me. And my duty is to walk through those doors the best I can. And so, even though when I had a bad day, I never said this anymore
Mm.
because I had my end goal. That's a good question.
That's good. I'm inspired.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on your
No,
podcast. This is amazing.
thank you for joining. This was
Yeah.
really good. So thank you guys for listening. I hope that you got inspired. And if you're working to building something that you remember Philip's story and the tips that he's given us. And thank you guys one more time. And I'll see you on the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe and follow on Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.